We begin today at the Mishnah on the bottom of Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis. Sagt the Mishnah, sagt the Heilige Mishnah, Birchas Kayanim Ketzad. How is the mitzvah of Birchas Kayanim fulfilled? How does it come into this Masechta? Because we spoke in the beginning of this Perek about all the things that have to be said b'Lashon HaKodesh and things that don't have to be said b'Lashon HaKodesh. So Sotah was in that list, and then Birchas Kayanim was in that list. So the Mishnah comes back to explain the details of Birchas Kayanim. B'Medina, if you're in anywhere in the country, meaning outside of the Beis HaMikdash, Omer Eisa Shalosh Brachas. So Birchas Kayanim is said, 3 brachas. After each bracha, you answer Amen. So see, three brachas are said with that break of Amen. Uba Mikdash, but in the Beis HaMikdash, bracha achas. Over there, all 3 brachas are said all as one. As Rashi brings over here, in the Beis HaMikdash, they didn't answer Amen. The Gemara will explain this later. Another distinction, in the Beis HaMikdash, the Eibishter's name is said as it's written, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. But it's, when it's said in the Medina, outside the Beis HaMikdash, B'Kinuya. The Eibishter's name is pronounced with the Kinui, with its nickname, which is the way we pronounce Hashem's name today, Aleph Dalet Nun Yod. Another distinction, by Medina, in the Medina, Kayanim Noisen Es Yideyim Keneged Kisfein. When the Kayanim are benching, they lift their hands at the Keneged Kisfein, at the height of their shoulders. But in the Beis HaMikdash, Al Gabe Rashayin. Over there, in the Beis HaMikdash, because they're saying the Shema Mefurish, so for the extra coverage for the Shechina, they lift their hands above their head. Chutz, the Kohen Gadol, She'ena Magbiya Yadav L'mayla Min HaTzitz. Besides the Kohen Gadol, because he's wearing the tzitz, which has the Eibishter's holy name in it, he doesn't raise his hands above the tzitz. Rabbi Yehuda argues, Rabbi Yehuda says, Af, Kohen Gadol, even the Kohen Gadol as well, Magbiya Yadav L'mayla Min HaTzitz. He raises his hands above the tzitz. Shenemar, the pasuk says, Vayisa Aaron es Yadav Ela'om, Aaron HaKohen, raised his hands up for the people, Vayevarchem, and he benched them. So this pasuk that's brought over here, it's not clear. The Tosfos Yom Tov says that how does this pasuk prove that he raised his hands above the tzitz, and above his head? It just says Vayisa Aaron, that Aaron raised his hands. How do we know how high it was? So the Tosfos Yom Tov, sorry, go ahead.
What does the tzitz have to do with raising?
Because the tzitz has the Eibishter's holy name inscribed in it, so we don't want to raise your hands above the tzitz, because you don't want the honor of the tzitz not to raise your hands above that. So what's the raya from this pasuk? The Tosfos Yom Tov actually says that this is not a raya for the last point. This is b'chlal, the source for raising the hands. But there's another pshat. The Mishnah L'Melech says that when it says Vayisa Aaron es Yadav Ela'om Vayevarchem, the Vayisa Aaron es Yadav was not for Birchas Kayanim. He raised his hands because he was davening to the Eibishter, and so he raised his hands high above, like a person davens. Aaron HaKohen raises his hands above the tzitz. And then it says Vayevarchem, that he benched him. So from there we understand that Aaron HaKohen at that time did raise his hands above the tzitz. Zok the Gemara Tana Rabbanan. We learned in the Braise, here the Gemara brings many details in the halachas of Birchas Kayanim. It says in the pasuk by Birchas Kayanim, Koi Sevarchu. Like this, you should bench the Yidden. What's the meaning of the word Koi? B'Lashon HaKodesh. You should bench the Yidden, and it has to be Dafke in Lashon Kodesh. Ata Aime B'Lashon HaKodesh, you say that it's only in Lashon Kodesh, or maybe you can bench in any language. So the answer is, but Nemakan Kaisavarchu. It says here Kaisavarchu, so this is the lashon of bracha. And then it says by the brachas that were in Har Grizim and Har Evel, it says Elu Yamdu Levarech Esam. So there it also says the lashon of bracha. Mala Alon B'Lashon HaKodesh. Just like there, they benched the brachas Dafka in Lashon HaKodesh. As we learned that, it says there Va'onu Va'omru Alavim, that has to be Dafka in Lashon Kodesh. Avkam B'Lashon HaKodesh. By Birchas Kayanim, it also has to be in Lashon Kodesh. So it's a Gzeira Shava according to the Tanna Kama. Rabbi Yehuda says, Zayin Tzarech, you don't need this Gzeira Shava. Harei hu oime kai. We learn it from the word that it says kai, like this, exactly this language that the Torah says. Ad sheyoimru b'lashon hazeh. Has to be said in the language of the Torah. Another thing we learn from Kai Sevarchu. Tanya, we learned another brayta, Kai Sevarchu, when it says you bench Yidden, what does that mean? Ba'amida. That the Kayanim have to stand when they say Birchas Kayanim. You say that it means only standing, or the Kainim could bench even sitting. So the Braisa says, no, Nemakan Kaisavarchu. The Nem, Allah alone. Again, it says by the brachas of Har Grizim and Har Evel, Elu Yamdu Levarech, that they stand and they bench. Mala alon ba'amida, avkam ba'amida. Just like there, they were standing and benching, so here as well, the Kainim have to stand and bench the Yidden. Rab Nosson says, I don't need the Gzeira Shavah to Hagrizim and Arevel. The pasuk says when Kainim are serving the Beis Hamikdash, l'sharisai ulevarich b'shmai, that Kainim serve in the Beis Hamikdash and the Kainim bench with the Eibish's name. So we compare the two. Ma misharis ba'mida, just like when the Kainim do their aveda, they serve in the Beis Hamikdash, they're standing. Af mevarich ba'mida. So too when the Kainim bench Yidden, they have to be standing. Misharis gufei min halon. From where do I know that when the Kainim are serving in the Beis Hamikdash, they have to be standing? Because the pasuk says, "La'moed l'sharis," to stand and serve. So the aveda in the Beis Hamikdash must be done standing. That's where we learn it out from. Tan yedach we learned in another brayse kaisu varchu. What does it mean kaisu varchu b'nesiyas kapayim? That the Kainim have to bench, they have to raise up their hands. Atayim b'nesiyas kapayim. You say that they bench, raising their hands. Ayen elishalay b'nesiyas kapayim. Maybe it's not necessary. So where do we learn this out from? Nemakan kaisu varchu. It says here the mitzvah of kaisu varchu. It also says vayisa Aaron's yadav elaam vayivarchem, that Aaron raised his hands and benched the Yidden. Mala alon b'nesiyas kapayim, just like there Aaron benched the Yidden with nesiyas kapayim. Afkan b'nesiyas kapayim, so too Birchas Kainim always has to be b'nesiyas kapayim. Okay, now over there when Aaron HaKayim benched the Yidden, this was on Yom HaShmini Lamilum, after the Karbanis were brought. So B'Pashtas, you look into Rashi there, what did he bench Yidden with? He benched Yidden with Birchas Kainim, Yivarecha Yar and Yisa, that's what Rashi says. But the Rebbe explains in the Sikha that the emes is, it wasn't really Birchas Kainim. Even though it's interesting, Aaron HaKayim used the same nusach of Birchas Kainim, but it wasn't the fulfillment of the mitzvah of Birchas Kainim. The mitzvah wasn't even given yet. The mitzvah was said afterwards. It comes in Parshas Nasa and it was said later. Aaron HaKayim was benching Yidden, and he found it appropriate to use the same nusach in connection to what he wanted to bench them with. But it wasn't really the mitzvah of Birchas Kainim. But nevertheless, the Gemara learns the Gzeira Shavah. Learn out the Gzeira Shavah of bracha vayivarchem to what it says here, the kaisu varchu, that just like there Aaron raised his hands, so too by Birchas Kainim b'chlal. Now, this Gzeira Shavah, the Gemara says, Kashi leil Rabbi Yonasan. This is not part of the Braisa, this is the Gemara asking the question. That's what Taisus here says. So his question is, I malahalon kayin gadol v'rish chaydish avaydas tzibor Aaron HaKayim when he benches Yidden and he raises his hands. So when is this? First of all, it's only Aaron HaKayim himself. No one benched it. We don't find that anyone was together. Only Aaron HaKayim benched Yidden. And also when was it? On a Rish Chaydish, on Rish Chaydish Nissen. And also avaydas tzibor. He's doing the aveda, bringing the karbanis, not any private karbanis, but the karbanis that are being brought for all the Klal Yisrael on that day. So maybe I should say, Afkan, always, the mitzvah of Birchas Kainim is Kayin Gadol, only for the Kayin Gadol, and also only V'Rish Chaydish, only on Rish Chaydish, and only the Sibur, only when you bring the carbon Sibur. For example, the carbon Tamid that's brought in the morning, but not by private karbanis. So Rab Nosson, now the Gemara doesn't answer this question on this Gzeira Shavah, but the Gemara now brings a different source. Now this is going back to the Braisa. Rab Nosson says, you don't need this Gzeira Shavah to Aaron HaKayim. The pasuk says, and this is a pasuk that says regarding the Kainim serving in the Beis Hamikdash. Hu uvanav kol hayamim. Aaron HaKayim and his children, they serve in the Beis Hamikdash kol hayamim all the days. So two things. First of all, makish banav loy. We compare Aaron HaKayim's children to him. Mahu b'nesiyas kapayim, just like Aaron HaKayim himself raises his hands and benches Yidden av banav b'nesiyas kapayim. So his children also have this mitzvah. And also Ksiv, Kol HaYamim. It says Kol HaYamim, that this is not just on Rish Chaydish, but this is on all days. And then another thing, you're going to ask, this pasuk that is, Hu Von of Kol HaYamim, is not written regarding Birchas Kainim. It's written regarding serving in the Beis HaMikdash. Ve'eskish bracha l'sheiras. We already brought before a pasuk. The pasuk before was quoted l'sharsai or levarech b'shmai, that we compare serving in the Beis HaMikdash to benching the Yidden, that both of them are the same halachas. So therefore, if the serving is for all the Kainim, the benching, the mitzvah of Birchas Kainim, is also for all the Kainim. So Taisus over here points out that there's one detail that the Gemara skips. The Gemara said that I would think that it's only Aveidas Tzibur. So from where do we know that it's not Aveidas Tzibur? The Gemara doesn't address that. So Taisus says, Anachanami, Birchas Kainim in the Beis HaMikdash was only by Aveidas Tzibur. In the morning, by the carbon Tamid, that's when the Birchas Kainim was in the Beis HaMikdash. But by a private carbon, by a carbon Yachid that was in the Beis HaMikdash, there was no Birchas Kainim. That's why the Gemara does not address that. Why did the Gemara even bring it up before? Taisa says, sort of derech hagav, the Gemara brought it. But the MS, this taka remains the fact that Birchas Kainim was only by the Karbanis Tzibur. The Tanya Yidach we learned yet in another Braise again, the same pasuk. Koysev Orchas B'nei Yisrael. So what do you learn from this? B'shem Amefaydish. They have to bench and pronounce the Eibish's holy name of Yudke Vavke. You say that they say the Eibish's holy name. It's enough if they would say another nickname of the Eibishter, one of the other names. Talmud Loima, the pasuk afterwards says, "V'samu es shmi," that you should place my name upon the Yidden. What does this mean? Shmi, shmi hamiyuchadli. That the shema miyuchad of the Eibishter. Yachail. So I would think, Av Bigvulin Kain. I would think that pronouncing the Eibishter's holy name is also outside in the Beis Hamikdash and the other boundaries of where a Yid lives. So we say that's not the case because Nemakan v'samu es shmi. It says here this lashon that you should place my holy name upon them when you bench them. V'nema la'alon, there's another pasuk that says, regarding only the Beis HaMikdash, lasum es shemay sham, that you place, the Eibishter's holy name is there. Ma la'alon Beis HaBchira, so that pasuk is speaking about the Beis HaMikdash. Afkan, so to hear, v'sama shmi, is bebeis HaBchira, only in the Beis HaMikdash. Rabbi Yeshi has a different source for this, that only in the Beis HaMikdash. Ain't it tzarech? You don't need this limud from v'sama shmi to lasum es shemay. There's another pasuk that says as follows: in any place where my name, the Eibishter's name, is mentioned, Avoy eilecha, I will come to you. That's the pasuk. So the question of this pasuk is, what does this mean in every place? Does that could you say b'chol makim salkedaitach, that in every place that you could mention Hashem's holy name? Shmi means the Shem HaMiyuchad. Are you allowed to say? Are you allowed to pronounce Yudke Vavke everywhere? Rashi over here brings the limud that we learn out from the pasuk that says Zeh Shmi v'Zeh Zichri, that Leikashani Nichtav Ani Nikra, you're not supposed to pronounce the Eibishter's holy name anywhere outside the Beis HaMikdash. Besides that, Rashi says, the Gemara's question is, it says, Ovei Alecha, the Shechina comes and dwells. Does the Eibishter come and dwell everywhere? The place of Ashras Shechina is only in the Beis HaMikdash. So how do we read this pasuk? So Ella says the Gemara, Mikra Zeh Mesurasu. The words of the pasuk are out of order, and it has to be read as follows. B'chol makim. So you start with the words B'chol makim of the pasuk, and then you go to what it says afterwards in the pasuk. B'chol makim asher avay elecha. In the place where I come to you, in the place where the Shekhinah dwells, in the Beis HaMikdash, overachticha, and I bench you there, sham askeshmi. It's over there that you mention my holy name. So v'heichan avay elecha berachticha. Where is that place that the Eibishter comes to you and benches you? B'Beis HaBchira. That's in the Beis HaMikdash. Sham asker shmi b'Beis HaBchira. That's the place where the person can mention the Eibishter's holy name. This is the source. Another Braise it says, Tanya Yidach koysev orchas b'nei Yisrael. What do we learn from this? Ainli ela b'nei Yisrael. It says in the pasuk that you bench Yidden. So you would think that that includes only Yidden, and who would it exclude? Gedim, so converts, noshim, the women, va'avodim mishuchradim, freed slaves, which are also Gedim, minayim. From where do we know that they're included in the bracha? Talmud Loima, the pasuk says afterwards, Amar Lohem. So Lohem over here says Lekulu. It includes all of these that are also Yidden. Tanya Yidach, and we looked at another Braise. Koi Savarchu, you bench Yidden. How do you bench them? Panim, Keneget Panim. That you have to bench them, they have to be facing, you have to be standing and facing you. Atoimer, you say that Koi Savarchu means Panim Keneget Panim. Oyen Elo Panim Keneget Doirev. Even if a person is standing in shul and he doesn't turn his face to the Kainim, he will also get the bracha. He doesn't have to turn to you b'chlal. Talmud Loimar, so the pasuk says, Amar lehem, say the bracha to them. God it has to be said like a person that's saying it to his friend. So this is actually very interesting because it comes out according to this, that in order for the Kohanim to be able to fulfill the mitzvah, it's up to the Yidden to help them. The Kohanim can't fulfill the mitzvah without the Yidden turning towards them. The Kohanim can come and bench, but if the Yidden are not facing them, so then the mitzvah can't be fulfilled. There's actually even more. It says that just like the Kohanim have to bench and have kavanah to bench with the be'ava and so on, it says also that the Yidden have to stand panim keneged panim and have to have kavanah to be makabel the bracha. And based on this, there's one of the Rishonim, the Sefer Charedim, he says that by Birchas Kohanim, not only are the Kohanim fulfilling a mitzvah, but the Yidden are also fulfilling a mitzvah. Because if the mitzvah can't be fulfilled without their participation, so then they have a chelik in the mitzvah itself. They have a kiyum of a mitzvah. There's a similar idea that you find by the mitzvah of Piri V'Ribya, that even though the mitzvah is only for the ish, for the man, not for the isha, not for the woman, but nevertheless, since the ish can't fulfill the mitzvah without the isha, so she has a mitzvah as well. And so over here also by Birchas Kohanim, the Yidden have a participation in this mitzvah.
Yeah, but only the Kohanim turns around, not the
Okay, Seder, but if a Yid was turned around before, he has to turn back. Yes, he has to turn towards the Kain. Tanya Dach, we learned in another Braise, Kais Varcha. What does Kais Varcha mean? Bekoiram, the Kainim should say with a loud voice. So it doesn't mean necessarily a loud voice that have to scream, but it means that you have to hear the bracha from the Kainim. Or maybe it means that the Kainim could say the bracha quietly. You say it to them. What does that mean? Like when a person is speaking to his friend could hear what he's saying. Now Abaye says regarding Birchas Kayanim. Naktinon. We have this tradition, we know this halacha that we received. L'shnayim kaira kayanim. Only if there are two kayanim that are going to be benching, so then the chazan calls up the kayanim, he calls kayanim that they should come and say the Birchas Kayanim. But le'echad ain't a kaira kayan. But for one, he doesn't call the kayan to bench. Shenema, because the pasuk says, Omar lohem. On Lahem we learn out L'shnayim, that say this to the Kainim, that only if there's two, they have the mitzvah for Birchas Kainim. So, but if there's only one, so then, Minat Torah, they don't have the mitzvah of Kainim, so therefore, the Chazan doesn't have to call them to bench the Yidden. Rav Chisda says, no, when is this said? Naktinon, I have the halacha that was said as follows. Kayin, kaira kayinim. If the one that's calling up the kayinim, the chazan that's davening for the yom, he is himself a kayin, then he calls the kayinim by saying kayinim. But when Yisrael kaira kayinim, a Yid, a Yisrael that's davening for the yom does not call the kayinim by kayinim. Shenamar, and the source of it is from the same pasuk. Omar lohem. How does he touch Omar lohem? Amida mishalahem. If it's from one kayin to another, if it's a kayin calling the kayinim, then he has to say kayinim. But otherwise, he doesn't say kayinim. But on the Shalem Tehei, that is, it's a conversation sort of between the Kayanim. But the Gemara says, we paskin like Abaye, and Rav Chisda. And we don't paskin like Rav Chisda, and that Yisrael, the Chazan, says Kayanim if there's two Kayanim. Okay, now here the Gemara is going to bring a bunch of different halachis and statements, or different inyanim that Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, and the Gemara brings first a siman for this. Siman, misave, lebroche, duchem, ba'avede, kais, makir, nene, bagala. Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, Minayin, shakadosh baruch hu misave, lebichas kainim. The Eibishter himself desires birchas kainim. It's not just for the sake of Yidden, but this is kaviyachol, the Eibishter desires this. Shenema, the pasuk says, v'somu es shemi, Al b'nei Yisrael v'ani avarchem. So what's the pasuk over here saying? That the Eibishter says that it's my name. You're doing it for my sake, for my name that's being placed upon the Yidden, not just for the sake of the Yidden. Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Another thing Rabbi Shua ben Levi said: Kol kayin shemavarech. A kayin that benches Yidden, mizbarech. He gets benched from the Eibishter himself. V'she'enem avarech. But if it is not benched to Yidden, then ein mizbarech. He does not get benched from the Eibishter. Shenemar. As the pasuk says, "Va'avarecha mevarachecha," that those that you bench, if you bench, then you yourself will get benched. I mean, this is a pasuk really that's written in Parshas Lech Lecha, not only b'negeya to Kayanim, but b'chlal. If you bench others, you yourself will get benched. Okay, there's another limud that it's learned out from Vani Avarchem. Maybe the Gemara brings it later. I don't remember now, but Vani Avarchem is an additional thing. Va'ani, the Eibishter himself benches the Kainim, comes from a higher level. But here it's talking about this pasuk, Va'avarcha mevarachecha. Rabbi Shua ben Levi says, Kol kayin she'ena eilu leduchin, a kayin that does not go up to the platform to bench Yidden, over b'shloisha asay. He's over on 3 different mitzvahs asay. Kai sevarchu, this is how you should bench them. And then it says, Omer lahem, say the bracha to Yidden, and v'samah shmi, place my name upon Yidden. And so the Gemara doesn't mean literally that these are divided into 3 different mitzvahs. It's one mitzvah, but there are 3 expressions that the pasuk uses. So it's like you're being over on 3 mitzvahs loisase, 3 mitzvahs asay, that is. Okay, but based on what we learned before, this only applies when there's 2 kainim. That's when there's the mitzvahs asay min atayre. And not only that, it says in, I believe that maybe the Rishonim say this, that's if the kainim are there. But if the Kainim are not there and they don't hear the announcing of Kainim, and so then if they hide or if they go away, so then they're not over on this mitzvah loisase. I think it says that by the Amiroim, when they were weak and they weren't able to bench, so they would sort of go out of the shul at the time when the Chazan called out Kainim, not to be over on the mitzvah. Rav Amarav says a Kain that doesn't go up to bench the Yidden, Chayshishin, so then we're going to be concerned, Shama ben Grusha ben Chalutzahu, Maybe he's a descendant of a ben grusha ben chalutzi. He came from a marriage of a kayin to a grusha chalutzi, which is not allowed, and the children are halalim, and therefore he can't go and bench. Even if we know that his father is not and he is not, but maybe from generations before he is. Okay, so the Gemara now explains, before we said he's just over on a esed, but we're not concerned about his yichus, about his lineage. And now we're saying we are concerned about that. So the Gemara says, v'loi pligi, there's no argument here. Ha, the salik leprokim. If this is a kayan that sometimes, like Rashi says, Yom Tiv, he goes up and benches Yidden, but not every day, so then we know that he's a kayan because we see he benches Yidden. Ha, the salik leprokim. But if it's a kayan that never goes up to bench for birchas kayanim, so then we have to be concerned that maybe he's not kosher. Another Allah Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, Kol kain she'ein oila ba'avayda, if the kain did not go up at the time of avayda, which is the bracha that begins with ritzei, shuvein oila, so then he doesn't go up anymore to bench. Shenema, we learned this from the pasuk where it says, Vayisa Aaron es yadav ala'am, pasuk that was quoted before. Aaron raised his hands, Vayevarchem, and he benched the Yidden, and then Vayered ma'asei sachatas va'ayla, and then he went down from the Mizbeach, from bringing the carbon chatas and Naila and Shlomim. So Mala Alam Ba'avayda, just like there, he was on the Mizbeach, and Rashi here, Taichas Ba'avayda, meaning that he still didn't even complete his Avayda. He was in the middle on the Avayda on the Mizbeach, and he raises his hands to bench the Yidden. Avkam Ba'avayda. So too, the Birchas Kainim has to be related to the bracha of Avayda, the bracha of Ritzei, and the Kain has to go up to bench by that bracha. So it's interesting that the pshat that I just mentioned, that Rashi says that Aaron HaKohen benched the Yidden like in the middle of the Aveda on the Mizbeach, because others say, you look over there in the Psukim and the Mefarshim and the Mikra, that Vayeda, that the pshat is he went first down and then he benched them, even though in the Lashon of the Pasuk it doesn't seem so, but some even say that it's a Mikra Mesuris. Really, he first descended from the Mizbeach and then he benched the Yidden. And even according to Rashi, the simple pshat of the Pasuk there seems like he finished the Aveda, even though he stood on the Mizbeach, but then he benched the Yidden. But Rashi here seems to be saying that he was mamish in the middle of the Ba'id Avayda B'Yadid, Rashi here says. And then he benched the Yidden. Okay, there's a sikha also from the Rebbe where the Rebbe explains the connection between Birchas Kainim and Avayda. What's the significance of Avayda and Birchas Kainim? It's two different inyanim. Why dafka is there a connection between them? So the connection over here is because the bracha of Birchas Kainim is a much more powerful bracha than every regular bracha. Usually it says that a bracha is only able to draw down from what already exists in the source. And then you bring it from the source, from Ruchnias down to Gashmias. And the proof for that always is, it brings from Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu benched each one of the Shvatim according to his nature, what already way he was B'shar Shelamayla. What's tefillah? What's aveda or tefillah, davening? You can draw down something that's new, that doesn't exist in the source. You can make a yehi ratzon, a new ratzon. But the point of here is, Birchas Kainim, it's being done by aveda, is making the point that it's drawing a bracha that's a chiddush, that's new, that's higher than the source. And still it comes down as a bracha. Without the effort, it comes down b'mehiris and quickly. That's a tremendous mile of Birchas Kainim that's connected to aveda. But the Gemara asks on this, Aini, is this the case? Rabami and Ravasi, they were both Kainim, and Sulki, they went up to bench, even if they didn't go up by the beginning of the bracha, by the tzei, by Aveda. So the Gemara answers, Rabami Rabasi may karava akri karayu. They had already moved out of their place from where they were to come to bench, even though they didn't arrive to the duchen, to the place where they had to be to bench, but they already got out of their place. Mim to lavamatias and didn't arrive there yet, so therefore that's allowed. Okay, as Rabbi Shi says, if he didn't yet move out of his position to come, then he can't go anymore. But if he was already oiked himself from his place, he can go up. And we understand also that by Birchas Kainim, the main point is the Akiris Haraglayim, that you have to go out of your place from the following Mishnah. Mishnah in Brachas, the Tanan Nami, we learn in that Mishnah is speaking about a case where the Kayin himself is the Chazan, he's the Shliach Tzibor. So he's the one that's the doubting for the Yomid. Could he bench the Yidden at the same time? The concern is that he might get confused. He has to do the actual brachas, he has to say, and at the same time he has to do the brachas for Birchas Kainim. So the Mishnah there says, if he's 100% sure that he won't get confused and he's able to bench the Yidden and go back to davening and to continue with the Chazaras Hashatz without getting confused, Rashoy, he's allowed. But on that Mishnah, the question was asked, He didn't go out of his place. Birchas Kainim, you have to come out of your place to go especially to bench Yidden. You can't just stand where you are and bench Yidden. You have to show the cheshivas of the mitzvah to come. So this chazan doesn't move from his place. So the answer is you have to say do not purta. No, he does. He didn't move a drop. He has to move just a drop, maybe closer to the middle, where the Aron Kodesh is. He does have to move a little bit to come and bench, and that's enough. That's significant enough. So too, when we say that the Kayyim must come by the bracha of Ritzei, it also means do not purta. If he moved, that itself is already enough that he came, that you could say that he'll be able to bench the Yidden. I saw that there's a discussion in the Paiskim whether this moving that it says over here for the Kayin, is it enough even if he moved out of his place by the bracha of Ritzei to go wash his hands? Not necessarily, he's not ready to go yet to the front of the shul. Or no, it has to be moved out of his place, not for washing his hands, but specifically to come to bench the Yidden. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, another thing Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, "Ein noisnin kais shel bracha levarech el l'toiv ayin." We don't give a kais shel bracha for someone to bench kais shel bracha unless he's a toiv ayin, unless he has a good eye. He's someone that gives chesed and so on. He gives money for people. It's a good eye. Shanema, as the pasuk says, toiv ayin, a person that has a good eye, hu yevarech, he will be benched. Ki nosan milachmei ladol, because he gave from his bread for the poor. So we darshan on this, al tikri yevarach. It's not only that he will be benched, eli yevarech. He's able to bench. Only one that has a good eye, we give him the opportunity to bench. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said in connection to this, minayin shafila oifais makirim b'tzari ha'ayin. How do we know that even birds recognize a person that's stingy, that doesn't have a good eye? Shanema, the pasuk says, ki chinam mizayra hareshes, that for no reason you're spreading out a net to catch these birds. And how do you catch these birds into this net? You put some food over there for the birds to come. So a person that has a tzar eye, and a person that has a stingy and has a bad eye, he's doing this for no reason, because even the birds recognize that this person does not have a good eye and they won't come there. The Marsha, one of the pshatim, the Marsha explains, how do the birds know this? They have a peseichel. So he says, one of the pshatim is because the only way to get the birds to come there is, it's not enough just to put some food inside the nest. You have to put food in that area for a while to get the birds accustomed to coming there. Once they're accustomed to coming there, then they end up coming into your net. But this guy that's stingy, they will not put food out there for a few days. So therefore the birds realize it's just putting it inside the net, they won't come. A person that takes benefit from a person that is stingy, over belav, he's over on this lav here. This is not mamash lav, but in other words, the lav of what it says here in the pasuk in Nach. The pasuk says in Mishlei, al tilcham es lechem ra'ayin. Don't take bread from a person that has a stingy eye. Ki kemoi shar benafshay kein hu achol v'shasei yomer lacha. So we see over it says al tilcham lechem. Don't take bread from this person that has a stingy eye. Rav Nachman b'Yitzchak Amar oive b'shnei lavim. There's two lavim yoyim, because that pasuk there says al tilcham, and then the continuation of that pasuk it says there val tisov lemata meisav. Do not desire for his delicacies, for his tasty foods. So in other words, if you're taking from someone something and you're hurting him, he feels bad that he's giving it, so you're causing him pain. So the pasuk is saying, if you're causing him pain, don't take from him. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. The last point here regarding this concept of tzar ayin. Ein egla arufa ba elo b'shvil tzar ayin. The story with egla arufa, which is a person that's found dead, and we don't know who and what happened here. So you have to come and you have to bring a calf, and the bezdin. We're going to learn about this. There's a whole perek over here later in the Masechta about this egla arufa. This whole story of egla arufa comes about elo b'shvil tzar ayin, because people that were stingy. Shanema, as the pasuk says, "V'anu v'amru," the bezdin that comes there, they have to say as follows: "Yedeinu l'shafchos adam hazeh." We did not spill the blood of this individual. What does that mean? Why are they saying this? Also, they have to come and let us know and clarify that they did not spill his blood, but I think they did. Ella, rather, what it means is, he did not come to our hands, and we just let him go. We didn't see him, and we just saw that he needs food, and we just let him go. We didn't see him and let him go. We didn't leave him without food, or we didn't leave him without accompanying him. The levaya is also a big part of the mitzvah. So, but what does that mean though? The bezdin didn't. But there was someone else that did. There was someone else that was stingy and let him go, and that's why he died over here. And that's why we see that this whole story of Egla Rufa happens because of the tzari ayin. Okay, going back now to the halachas of Birchas Kainim. Omar Ada Omar Absimloi. Beis HaKnesses Shekula Kainim. If you have a shul, they're all Kainim. So what happens now? So Kulan Eilen Leduchen. They all go up to the platform to bench. So the question though is, Lemim Mevarchim, who are they benching? It's an empty shul. Amar Rav Zeire, says Rav Zeire, La'achim Shebesodais. They're benching their brothers, the Yidden that are out in the field. They don't have to be there in the shul, they get benched. Fragt the Gemara, Eini, but is this the case? Va'atani Abba Bereder Rav Minyamin Bar Chiyeh. Am Shachayre Kainim, the people that are on the back of the Kainim. In other words, they're not in the shul, they're not standing face to face to the Kainim. So Einam B'chlal Bracha. They're not included in the Bracha. So how could you say that the people that are in the field get benched by these Kainim? So the Gemara answers, like Kasha, this is not a question. Ha da Anisi. Those people that are out in the field and it's an Einus, they couldn't make it into the shul, so they do get the Bracha because it's an Einus. And ha the loyanisi, those that are in the shul and they're achayre kainim, they go behind the kainim. They're not standing there in front of the kainim like we learned before. Panim keneged panim, so therefore they are not going to be included in the bracha. Another question the Gemara asks: V'atani Rav Shimi mi beirasa the shichayre beis haknesset, the shichayre that is. So this is all his name from a place that he came from. So Beis HaKnesses Shekula Kainim. If you have a shul that is all Kainim, Miktsasa and Eilin, some of the Kainim go up to bench, Miktsasa and Amen, and some of the Kainim are going to receive the bracha and then just answer Amen. So how could he say before that Kula Kainim they all go up to bench? So the answer is like Kashi. It's not a question. It depends. Hadish Tayyib Be'asara. If there are 10 kainim that can still be there in the shul. In other words, let's say there's in the shul, you have 15 people in the shul, all of them are kainim. So if 5 of the kainim will go up and bench, you still have a minion of kainim that can be there to answer Amen. So then we say that 5 go up and 10 remain to answer Amen. So there's a significant, there's a minion of Yidden that you can answer Amen. And so you see here from the Gemara that the din of Birchas Kainim is by a minion dafka. Birchas Kainim is not Stam Birchas Kainim, the mitzvah that is. The mitzvah of Birchas Kainim is by davening when there's a minion. And the lo yishtar be'asara. But let's say there's only 10 Kainim in the shul. So if you're going to send up some of these Kainim, there anyways won't be a minion to receive the bracha. So you're not benching the Kainim that are left in the shul. So you have to say that you're benching the people that are in the Sotahs, out in the field. So then all the Kainim go up and bench Birchas Kainim together.
You have that problem in Tunisia. They're all code